Yo, Kazuri here. We are back with another Should You Pull video. Today we're going to be talking about Fatutu. We'll briefly go over her kit, talk about some of the pros and cons, and then give her a pull value rating. At the end, I will talk about who I think should or should not pull for her. And as always, we got to get out the disclaimer that you should always pull for who you like, regardless if they are meta or not, because it will make the game more enjoyable. Basically, to summarize how her kit works in just a few sentences, Fatutu is a healer that can redistribute damage amongst all your teammates before healing them. This will make it so that no healing will ever go wasted. She also has access to easy cleansing with her skill, which can actually be triggered passively without casting it. Lastly, she is also a buffer in addition to being a healer. However, she only buffs follow-up attacks with her current kit. So yeah, that's a quick overview of what she does. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about some of the details in her kit right now. I will always talk about these characters with no portrays, so everything we talk about is a P0 Fatutu. Alright, so the main mechanic with Fatutu has to do with the shells that she gets when she enters the battle. There will always be 12 shells circulating throughout the fight. The shells will always be on either the enemy or on Fatutu. When you start the fight, you will have 12 shells on Fatutu. And then when the allies attack an enemy that has no shells, Fatutu will put a shell onto that enemy. Each shell on the enemy will boost any incoming follow-up attack damage taken by 5%, and then another 5% crit damage taken. Again, at P0 Fatutu, there can only be 12 shells circulating in the battle. An enemy could have a max of 12 stacks, causing them to take 60% more damage and 60% more critical damage from follow-up attacks. Very, very strong buff for follow-up attack teams. So now you're probably wondering, how do I get these shells onto the enemy? Well, I've listed here 4 different ways you can get it on the enemy. I'll just kind of talk about it really quickly. Allies attacking an enemy with no shells will apply 1 shell to them. And then if Fatutu uses her skill 1, the skill 1 also says that she will apply 3 shells onto the enemy. And then if you use the Fatutu ultimate, it will debuff the enemy, causing them to receive all 12 shells, and this debuff will last 2 turns. And then lastly, when allies are under Fatutu's second skill, which gives a buff, when they get hit, the attacking enemy that attacks the ally is going to receive 1 shell as well. Another thing to note is that when she applies these shells, there's actually a 20% chance that she recovers Moxie. So now that you know how the shells are applied to the enemy, what happens when the shells go away from the enemy? So the shells don't always stay on the enemy and actually can be retrieved by Fatutu. When Fatutu takes back these shells, she will proc a heal for each shell taken back. This is the healing portion of her kit. So now you're wondering, how do we retrieve these shells? Again, I listed some of the ways that she can retrieve the shell back. So when an enemy that already has shells on them are attacked by teammates, Fatutu will retrieve 1 of these shells for that attack. And then I will go over Fatutu's skill a little bit more later, but when she uses her skill 2, she actually retrieves all of the shells on all of the enemies on the battlefield. And then that is going to proc a massive heal for your team. So that's how all the shells work, whether you're applying them to get more follow-up attack damage or retrieving them to proc a heal for your team. Now let's go over her skills and her ultimate. We kind of already went over them when we were talking about how the shells work, but here we go. First skill, Unmendable Cracks. It attacks the enemy and applies 3 shells and also cleanses 1 debuff from all your allies. This skill is also passively triggered after Fatutu applies or retrieves shells 7 times. This is really nice for passive cleansing and extra shell stacking on the enemy. Second skill, Ocean in a Shell, will divide all the HP amongst your allies evenly and then grant all of them a specific buff. When the allies are under this buff, incoming damage will also be distributed amongst your allies. And then at the end of the skill, Fatutu will retrieve all the shells from all the enemies. This will proc a massive heal onto your teammate. And this is such a great way to sustain and heal because your team will have spread the HP loss and the damage taken, and that way every teammate will benefit from the healing because Fatutu will be retrieving the shells at the very end and proccing the heal at the very end. Lastly, her ult, Proverb of the Sea, with a whopping 700% damage multiplier. From a healer, by the way, Fatutu deals single target damage and applies all 12 shells onto that one target. marking them also for 2 turns. During these 2 turns, when shells are retrieved from this enemy, they will reapply again right after. Basically, this one enemy will have 12 shells on them at all times for the next 2 turns, allowing for a massive follow-up attack damage bonus to be taken by this one single enemy. And just to remind you, 12 stacks of shells or 12 shells is going to increase your damage by 60% damage bonus and 60% additional crit damage taken. Insane. And that's what Fatutu does. Let's talk about the pros of Fatutu. Her kit is honestly very straightforward and easy to play while also being highly effective in her role, which is keeping your teammates alive. She is an amazing healer that mitigates damage by spreading it amongst your teammates, reducing your chances of being one-shot. She also has an easily accessible cleanse with her skill 1. She has a chance of passively gaining Moxie with her Insight 1, and if you play her in follow-up attack teams, she can provide a really good damage bonus to follow-up attacks. There honestly aren't that many cons of Fatutu. The only thing is that her kit provides no buffs to other teams outside of follow-up attack teams. Her signature Psy Cube does help a little bit by giving teammates some crit damage, but that's it. But if you're just looking for a generalist healer for survivability and cleanses for any team, then Fatutu will always be a great option. So with all that, I have come to my pull value rating for Fatutu at a 4.5 out of 5. She is so easy to play and can be put into any team looking for a healer with a consistent cleanse. The survivability that she brings to any team is insane, especially with the harder content on the way, with more levels being added to reveries where enemies hit very hard. No surprise with her rating here because she is a support / healer that will hold value for a long time. Alright, let's talk about who should or should not pull for Fatutu. I think almost everyone could benefit from getting Fatutu just because of how flexible she is, and she will be one of the best options for sustain. I think if you have a lot of follow-up attack units, then pulling for Fatutu is a no-brainer because you will benefit from her entire kit. And those without follow-up attack units, you will still benefit from having Fatutu because she will be your #1 option when you need defensive utility. And as for the people who don't really want to pull for Fatutu, maybe because they don't like her design or character, I think it would be okay if you don't plan on playing follow-up attack teams to skip her, or if you have all of the current top sustain units like Villa, Euphoria New Babel, Euphoria Sotheby, maybe you have Medicine Pocket and you're waiting for their Euphoria as well. I think in that case, maybe it'd be okay to skip Fatutu. I still think she is a great unit to have. Or let's just say you're someone who's wanting to play Impromptu. Impromptu team is still missing a dedicated healer, so there's a chance that you release a crazy healer that could even surpass Fatutu that fits into the Impromptu team. But as for now, I think Fatutu is one of the best sustained units and pretty much relieves all your worries of ever dying in a fight, and that in itself is worthy of her pull value rating. Alright, that's it for the video. Hope you guys found it helpful. If you are pulling for Fatutu, I wish you the best of luck. I will be streaming my polls on Friday, so I'll see you there. Peace.